What's up guys, Joy here back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about forearms. Now, forearms are one of the muscles that can be very heavily genetically determined, right? What I mean by that, per se, is a lot of people can step into the gym for the first time in their life and have better forms than somebody who's been working out for like 3-4 years, or just more defined forms, or their insertions are popping a lot better, right? Forearms is like really a combination of three things more than anything else, right? Genetics, body fat, because your forearms, a lot of people have really shitty looking forearms until they hit a really low body fat. Like, body fat really does matter for forearms. And of course, you training them. So yeah, forearms can be a quite stubborn muscle, not nearly as stubborn as calves. Like, you obviously can progress, you obviously can see growth in them that should make you proud in yourself. Regardless though, they can be a little hard to develop. So I'm just gonna make a quick video pretty much teaching you guys how to get the best forearms possible. Now, first and foremost is the Brio Radialis. This is the biggest and most powerful and most noticeable muscle on the forearm. It rests on the side of the arm right here, and it's an incredibly powerful arm flexor. Now, it is very easy to hit the Brio Radialis, right? You can the two best ways to hit it per se are just either a standing dumbbell hammer curl or an easy bar reverse curl. Or you could do what a lot of people are doing, and you can do like the preacher curl version of those, right? You can do a preacher hammer curl, or you can do a preacher reverse curl. All in all though, I stick to the regular variations. Now, although typically I like really higher rep ranges when it comes to forearm direct training. With the hammer curls, you can be a little more lenient, right? The hammer curl is one of those exercises that, like, I've spoken about multiple times. It's good to go heavy on. It's hard to injure yourself. It feels right. You can pretty much go up pretty easily, and you can overload the fuck out of your arms with it. So when it comes to the hammer curl, you don't actually have to stick to a higher rep range, in my opinion. Although it's probably still the most optimal in terms of forearm hypertrophy. But if you do want to go crazy on weight on this, just a little bit, and add a little bit of swing to your body, that is not a bad idea. But generally 12 to 15 reps is just good for forearms in general. When it comes to reverse curls, I really would not go heavy with these. Like, anything you can do less than 12 to 15 reps, less than 10, absolutely the fuck not. At least in my experience, the reverse curl is what gave me like permanent wrist problems. Not all the way permanent, but it's taking a very fucking long time to heal from them. They're an outstanding exercise, but if you don't have amazing wrist conditioning and have genetically amazing wrist, it might hurt for the average person, right? Because it's forcing your hand to bend down in that position. It's like the same reason as to why arm wrestlers have a lot of fucking wrist trauma. But all in all, I say that to say, if you're gonna do a wrist curl, do it in the 12 to 15 rep range. It also just feels better on the forearms, and the forearms in general, like I said, do seem to respond best to the 12 to 15 rep range. You may have a different experience, but from what I've seen in myself and in other people, as well as like a lot of research, 12 to 15 does seem to be the general consensus. So you can perform either a hammer curl for 4 sets, or a reverse curl for 4 sets, or 2 to 4 sets. Or you could do 2 sets of the hammer curl, 2 sets of the reverse curl, so you can get like the best of both worlds. Regardless, you're gonna need a really good kind of compound forearm lift per se, and that's gonna be your hammer or reverse curl. So yeah, perform it, progress it over time, keep the form in check, and if you're gonna do the reverse curl, make sure you get good wrist flexibility and conditioning, and you will see good gains in your Brio Radialis. Now, next is the forearm flexor, probably the second most biggest muscle in the forearm. There's not a lot of detail and definition when it comes to it, but it does hold a bunch of weight. Like, this little chunk that you see on the side of your forearm is like where it kind of separates right here. You see this curve? That comes a lot from your forearm flexors. So how do you hit the forearm flexors? It is incredibly easy. The same way you would do a bicep curl, just do that with your wrist. They're literally just doing wrist curls. A lot of people like doing it with a typical dumbbell, which will work, but a variation that I found to be like really amazing, so you just get a barbell that you can curl, like wrist curl for 12 to 15 reps, as I said. Hold it behind your back, and when you drop, or when you do the wrist curl, as you're stretching down, allow it to drop so that it's only in your fingertips. So it kind of leaves your palm and you're stretching so that your fingertips, or like the bottom of your fingertips, are the last thing that's holding the bar. It gives you a lot better stretch and contraction. When it comes to these direct wrist movements like the wrist curl and the next exercise, there is not a lot of range of motion. So the range of motion that you do get, take advantage of it and milk it as best as possible. So take my advice on that. Do the behind the back variation or whatever variation you prefer. And when you stretch it, allow it to drop into the bottom of your fingertips. Additionally, make sure when you bring it back up with your wrist, you really tighten your hand, tighten your wrist, tighten your forearms, and contract as hard as possible. Now, the last main exercise, and probably the only other one you need, is just something for your forearm extensors, the front of your forearm. This is the muscle where you get all this little detailing from, right? That'll pop out even more at a lower body fat. And how do you do this? Very simple. You just do a reverse wrist curl, the exact opposite of what I just showed you. Now, you can't really perform this the same way like the variation I just recommended, but one thing I would do is I would sit down, kind of have half of my forearm hanging off my leg, so resting it on and have half hanging off, and do wrist curls that way. In other ways, I would kind of just bend over and do the wrist curls as well. Regardless, any reverse curl wrist variation is what's going to do it in terms of extensor growth. But yeah, keep it tame. Like I said, the 12 to 15 rep range, to or close to failure, and you should be good. These wrist curl exercises as well, make sure your wrists is very conditioned. Your wrist is a very consistently used area of the body in any complete routine, and it will take a lot of wear and tear. So take your time to develop the mobility, flexibility, have some days where you throw an ice pack on it, and you should be good. Especially if you're hitting forearms directly, they'll really do care about your wrist health. They can get fucked up pretty easily, so take the initiative. And now the rest of this video is kind of not really so necessary. If you just want some extra for your forearms, go ahead, but I pretty much gave you everything that you need to get the most complete set of forearms. The forearms generally do actually see a good amount of stimulus on back exercises. They see a good amount of work on a deadlift, and they see a really good amount of work on back training if you do it strapless. But of all the back exercises, the exercise that I noticed to be the most effective for really getting a good burn in the forearm is pull-ups. You just do them body weight. When I do them weighted, I actually really don't feel them as much in my forearms as I typically do. I think that's just a general calisthenic thing. Most bodyweight calisthenics do demand a lot on the forearms. That's probably, outside of genetics, one of the main reasons why Ramon Dino has amazing forearms, because before he really seriously got into bodybuilding, he did a lot of calisthenics. But that's besides the point. Bodyweight pull-ups are probably one of the best exercises that are not a direct forearm exercise, probably like a back exercise, that I really do actually feel my forearms getting hit very well. See, it's not the only thing you should be doing, but if you have considered doing pull-ups and you need a little more oomph, here you go. They do seem to work pretty well for the forearms as well, because as you do it more and more, as you get closer to failure, your forearms do get taxed from holding onto the bar. So naturally, your forearms do see some amount of work in there. So yeah, pull-ups. And just another honorable mention for like a back exercise where I really do feel my forearms a lot is supinated lat pull downs. Pretty much the same thing as pull-ups, you just supinated close grip. But yeah, I really do feel my forearms a lot on this. And if you do start to take this heavy, it really does wear and tear into your grip. So there is going to be increased forearm activation there. All in all though, those are just extra things to generally keep in mind, or extra exercises to keep in mind, but they're not really necessary if you don't want to do them. It's really the first three, right? You just need a solid reverse or hammer curl, a wrist curl, and then a reverse wrist curl. Take them to failure, generally in the 12 to 15 rep range, and you should be good. There are also other exercises that will work pretty well for the forearms too, that are kind of like strongman exercises, right? One of these being a farmer's walk, a deadlift where you kind of just hold it and pause at the top, weighted dead hangs, anything like pretty much any exercise where any type of grip strength is tested will also work your forearms. These just happen to be a lot more functional and maybe slightly worse for hypertrophy. Who knows? They might be even better for hypertrophy. It depends on the person. But these are also just more functional exercises that you can do as well, and that a lot of people see a good burn doing. Any exercise that will test your grip will also effectively hit your forearms as well. It might not necessarily be, oh, what's the most scientifically proven to be optimal, but it will hit your forearms to a good degree. So keep that in mind as well. And of course, your other bicep exercises as well. You will naturally always hit your bicep, or you will naturally always hit your forearms when doing biceps. It's just going to be one of the secondary muscles. And probably the best, I guess, say bicep exercise that is not a reverse curl or a hammer curl for this is a straight bar curl. That is the exercise that I have found to hit my forearms the most when it comes to just curls in general. But like I said, all of this is just an extra segment video, just some little note how you want to keep in mind. So it's like, hey, I'm doing a barbell curl or a straight bar curl, right? Maybe I don't want to take it to failure, but oh, I remember what Joel said, and I've really been wanting better forearms lately. Might be what you need. Regardless though, with forearms, there is a good amount of genetics in play. Just be persistent, take your time, don't expect results overnight. Take it to failure when you're training them. Make sure your wrists are conditioned, and you will see progress. But yeah, that's how to get bigger forearms, guys. It's really not that simple. Like I said, you really just need those 3 exercises in your routine. And if you want some strapless back training and taking your bicep training harder. But that is it, guys. Let me know what videos you want to see next, and I'm out.